Hey, it's Krieger here, and in this video we're gonna explore how to obliterate procrastination, the secret reasons you procrastinate and how to overcome them. So the first thing you have to understand is that procrastination isn't about laziness and rarely about the task we've been avoiding. So simply put, procrastination happens because of the meaning we attach to certain tasks. And because of this hidden meaning, procrastination becomes a strategy to avoid facing something deeper. For instance, right after I launched my book Pistes about 5 months ago, there were a lot of people paying attention to me, and I noticed this resistance to posting about certain topics and also telling my stories. And this happened because I was afraid of being judged and not being good enough. So this whole situation evoked my desire for perfection, which also led me to being identified with my productions and being attached to the outcome. So for about a couple of months, there was this anxiety about writing, and I found myself procrastinating. But then I realized what was happening, and I could finally address the root cause and work around it. Another example for you. When I was severely overweight, I would constantly procrastinate on buying new clothes. And why? Well, because I would have to look myself in the mirror. And I knew my clothes were getting tighter, but I didn't want to buy a bigger number of pants. So I was avoiding facing that. I wasn't taking good care of myself. And now, a less drastic example. A few months ago, I lost my credit card. And to get a new one was very simple. All I had to do was make a phone call. But I avoided it for weeks. And why? Because the call had to be done in Spanish. And this happened in a moment I wasn't feeling very confident with my Spanish. So this whole situation made me feel insecure because I feel like my Spanish should be way better now that I'm living in Argentina. But of course, this was all in my head. The truth is that I could easily do it and I can already hold conversations in Spanish, but was judging myself too harshly. So do you see? Procrastination is just a symptom of something deeper. It's about the meaning and happiness we attach to certain tasks. And while this is unconscious, they feel much bigger than they actually are. In fact, even using the word procrastination detracts us from the real experience, as it's a way to avoid uncovering the real truth. You know, people believe that just because they know a word, they know everything there is to know about something. The truth is that using terms provides an illusory sense of control because now we know what the thing is. However, we have to look for the secret reasons behind procrastination. Just like the examples I gave you. I wasn't procrastinating, I didn't want to feel rejected or judged. When we unwrap the real reason, it becomes conscious and we can finally do something about it. It's no longer this invisible master of puppets making us feel ashamed and guilty for constantly postponing certain tasks. So now let's explore the root cause of procrastination. So during my practice as a therapist, I understood that procrastination is a very common symptom in people under the influence of a mother or father complex. And this took things to a whole new level. And in very simple terms, these are people who don't want to grow up and take any responsibility for their lives. Some people know that as the Peter Pan syndrome, but nowadays people call it the man-child or the woman-child. However, in Jungian psychology, we call it the puer and puella eternus. When I realized that, I understood that the problem of procrastination is something much deeper. It's not about postponing daily tasks, it's about postponing growing up and fully living life. New studies are showing that adolescence is extending to 30 years old, and people are doing everything they can to remain childish. And why? Well, because this is the easy way out. While you're childish, you don't have to take responsibility for anything and can always blame your parents, your family, or society. And all of this passivity and lack of responsibility leads to people feeling lost and having no sense of purpose and direction. And this obviously leads to massive amounts of anxiety and depression. So procrastination is just a symptom of something much deeper. And that's why simply giving you a list of habits won't solve it. We have to address the root cause first. We have to talk about our attitude towards life and what lies underneath procrastination. For some, it's the fear of becoming independent, truly growing up and making their own decisions. Others feel like they're not good enough to do what they truly desire, and others procrastinate to avoid disappointing their families or partners. Some people procrastinate because they don't have the right motivation. They're just trying to please someone else, and on a deeper level, they're living their entire lives with someone else's map. Others will procrastinate because they lack self-esteem and don't feel like they deserve to accomplish anything. A few will procrastinate because they're afraid they'll be rejected if they put themselves out there. And finally, some people procrastinate because they're afraid of failure or even afraid of success. Now, if you're under the influence of a mother or father complex, the first thing you have to realize is that there is a part of you that wants to remain a child and sabotages all your attempts to become independent and accomplish your goals. And this part is also very clever, as it's a master in creating the perfect excuses to avoid doing all the tasks you have to do. And I know that many people are dealt a bad hand. I had to deal with CPTSD and severe derealization. However, the first thing that ought to be done is to emotionally and psychologically separate yourself from your parents. Until you do so, you'll never be your own person and you will be forever doomed to repeat their stories. And simply put, psychologically speaking, being under the influence of the parents entails that you unconsciously adopt their worldview, beliefs, fears, and all of their patterns around work, money, relationships, and life in general. I won't go into full detail here because I already wrote extensively about it in my book in the chapter Conquer the Poor and Puella Eternus, and you can get a copy when you join my newsletter. Plus, I have a video called How to Break Free from Childhood Trauma that covers all you need to know. What I'd like to add is that you won't be able to carve your own path if you don't take the responsibility upon you to craft your own values and create your unique sense of meaning. These answers won't come from anyone else but you, and if you don't actively engage in this process, you will operate with goals and a belief system that have nothing to do with your personality and authentic desires. You will be trying to please others and fulfill their expectations instead of following your soul. And that's what most people choose to do, and that's also why they lead meaningless lives. Well, at least they didn't interrupt me. And just a quick note here. When I say that people have to emotionally separate from their parents, some people tend to assume that this is a bad thing. But this is not about cutting ties with your family and shutting them off. This is about becoming your own person. It's about developing your own personality, beliefs, and values. It's about becoming independent and letting go of the need for their approval. It's about individuation, which means carving your own path. And in some cases, this will require keeping a certain distance from the family, while for others, this might not be necessary. You have to discern what's your scenario and not use your family as an excuse. Well, the joys of being an adult. There is always some bill to pay. But let's continue. So, being under the influence of the parental complex means that you either live a life trying to fulfill their expectations or trying to prove them wrong. And in the second case, you do everything they wouldn't approve. But either way, it's not a conscious decision because everything is done in reaction to the parents. It's not an expression of your individuality. And if you want to know more about this topic, I recommend watching my first 4 videos. Now, taking things into a procrastination context, the quickest way to realize if you're under the influence of a negative mother complex is if you're constantly seeking comfort. In other words, you're procrastinating because you have the perfect conditions. I know, a bit of mindfuck, but the problem is that you got used to your current level of comfort, and this keeps you stuck. Comfort is one of the most powerful drugs that exists. You know, I love when I can just brew myself a great cup of coffee and simply stare into the void. I just want to do nothing for a while and pretend that I don't have any adult responsibilities. The problem is that people usually fall in love with this pretending, and it quickly becomes an escapism. Whenever there is a situation demanding growth, instead of facing it head on, they choose the easy way out. And when you do that, you also open the door to a mediocre life. And this mediocre spirit whispers in your ear, it's okay to eat that extra cookie. It's okay to spend all of your time doom scrolling or watching adult videos. Quickly, it converts into a master of puppets, keeping you hostage of your own comfort. The mindset, if I just had the perfect conditions I could start, perfectly encapsulates it. There's always one more book you have to read. There's always one more thing you have to buy. You know, the list never ends. However, the first thing you have to realize is that comfort is subjective. You might not think that your current life is objectively comfortable, yet you got used to it. And worse, you keep lying to yourself, saying that everything is okay. But avoiding making a decision doesn't make things magically disappear. It just makes the imaginary monster bigger. And until you admit to yourself that things must change, I'm sorry to tell you, but you just keep wasting your life. Discomfort is poisonous and will corrode your health, relationships, and all your potential to live a great life. Now, looking on the bright side, once you understand that you've been lying to yourself, you also realize that you had the perfect conditions to start all along. Let's be serious for a moment. If you're watching this right now, I'm sure you have all you need to start whatever you want to do. And instead of choosing comfort every time, you had to learn how to intelligently apply friction to yourself. And I will explore that in future videos. But I would like to end this one by quoting Kant. You're only free when you choose to do what you don't want to do. Stay with this for a moment. You're only free when you choose to do what you don't want to do. You know, many people have this childish idea that if they form a lot of habits and have a proper routine, they will stop having fun and life will become boring. But it's exactly the other way around. If you don't develop discipline, your destructive desires will continue to ruin your life. It's not fun having bad financial habits and never knowing if you have enough money. It's not fun not being able to control what we eat, constantly put on weight, and feel disgusting when we look in the mirror. It's not fun not being able to accomplish our tasks and feel guilty, ashamed, like a failure. Not only that, when you don't have good habits, you waste a lot of time in meaningless tasks, such as thinking about what you're gonna eat or wear. However, when we form good habits, everything becomes automatic and we don't have to think about it anymore. It becomes effortless, and this frees a lot of mental energy. We stop being worried about meaningless stuff and we can apply all of this energy to deep thinking and creativity. So having good habits and deciding exactly how we will spend our time, resources, and energy is extremely powerful and brings immense freedom. It's time to stop being a slave of your illusory comfort. After all, you're not lost. You're afraid of responsibility and carving your own path. Finally, if you want to effortlessly master your habits, unleash endless motivation, and unlock the flow state, I invite you to check out my new and accessible course, Obliterate Procrastination. You can also come directly to the Audacity University and access all of my courses. Join the Audacity Inner Circle and participate in live meetings. Lastly, you can get a copy of my book when you join my newsletter. All links are in the description. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.